The old next thing was GDP growth driven by demand-side policies. And that was fine. That's no problem in that. But we need to understand that the fear-mongering about a recession or a crisis, why does a crisis happen? Why does a crisis happen? Somebody said before it was about regulation. Crises always happen. Take only one sentence of all the things that I'm going to say today. This one, and then you can go for dessert. Crises always happen in the assets in which we believe that there is no risk, never in the assets in which there is too much risk. The reason why there was a crisis built in housing was precisely because lenders, borrowers, economic agents, all of us believed that there was no risk in that assets. You don't accumulate risk in assets of high risk. That is why there will not be a crisis made by biotech or a crisis made by Bitcoin. There will be a crisis made by an asset that we believe has no risk. Which asset do we believe now has no risk? That one. Sovereign bonds. That is. You see? You don't accumulate risk on something that you believe has risk. You accumulate risk on something that you believe has no risk, okay? And if you believe that there is no risk in sovereign bonds, there is no surprise that right now there are almost $17 trillion of negative yielding debt in the world. Negative yielding debt. Now let's explain this to the generations that will see us in the future, see this video. What is negative yielding debt? Negative yielding debt is that you pay somebody to lend them money. Why would you pay somebody to lend them money? If anybody here is willing to do it, I have a lot of things that I would like to borrow. Huh? Why would you do that? 3 reasons. Not because you're stupid. 1, you believe that there's going to be a massive disinflationary process. Important, this one. 2, you believe that the price of that asset is going to be much higher than the loss of income that you get from the yield. 2, dangerous, that one. 3rd, you believe that everything else is going to collapse. That's not very nice. Huh? You think that equities are even worse, so you prefer to lose €1 out of 100 euros rather than losing 50, no? Huh? But it's a dangerous process because it's very similar to a bubble, you see? You think that you are going to continuously compensate the price of money with the revaluation of the asset, of non-replicable assets or of allegedly safe assets. But think about it from the perspective, everything has and has 2 sides, no? In a balance sheet, the assets and the liabilities. Okay, you're looking at it from the perspective of the assets. Think about it from the perspective of the liabilities. Think about it from the perspective of the borrower. The borrower is incentivized to take more debt. More importantly, because debt is cheap, the borrower is told over and over again by my esteemed colleagues this morning and by everybody else in the media and in the mainstream that they need to spend. Hey, debt is cheap. So your return does not need to be as high when you're looking for an investment. But guess what happens? And this is the reason why gross capital formation, why investment doesn't grow as much as the central planners would like. Yes, cost of debt is coming down. But cost of debt is not the only variable when you look at an investment. Your variable is what? Weighted average cost of capital. There is another part of the equation that they're missing, which is the cost of capital. And what is happening to the cost of capital? That cost of capital is not coming down. Why is cost of capital not coming down if interest rates are coming down aggressively? Because if you have a business that is going well and the business in front of you that is not doing well is perpetuated, zombified, as the deputy governor of the central bank said this morning, is zombified, then you don't have an incentive to invest, you don't have an incentive to hire. You see, you are subsidizing low productivity in order to penalize high productivity. As such, the things that we gave as for granted in terms of demand-side policies, all those things that we expected to improve, all of those, that phone is probably from a central bank. All of those things, we're not getting them. And the reason why we're not getting them is, for example, the central bank says, allow me to think about this. I injected $20 trillion into the economy and there is no inflation, okay? Hold on. Is there no inflation? In the European Union, the prices of houses have multiplied by 3, while at the same time we were saying that there was no inflation. Why? Because non-tradable goods go up and tradable goods come down dramatically. So, I don't know, is there anybody here that eats video cameras? Nobody. Okay, so if food goes up and video cameras come down, inflation, average inflation, doesn't look too high. But you don't buy a video camera every day. Actually, you don't buy a video camera at all. That's why they're coming down. So what we are seeing is the shift of inflation. Inflation is not happening in CPI, in consumer prices, yet all over the European Union you have demonstrations of citizens criticizing the increase in cost of living. Is the European Central Bank wrong? No. Are those citizens wrong? No. They're both right. We're just not understanding that the massive collapse in tradable goods does not mean that there is not a high increase in the cost of living for the average citizen. As such, if the central bank and the government believes that there is no inflation, but the citizen sees high inflation, what happens? Who spends more? Nobody. Who takes more risk as a citizen? Nobody. It's the Japanization conundrum. In Japan, you have the same thing. We have to combat deflation. You had to combat deflation. Who's been to Japan? Well, there you go, that guy over there. Not cheap, huh? Not cheap, okay? There you go. Especially in the time in which they said that they had to combat deflation. Prices were hugely enormous. So one of the things that happens is that the consumer, the investor, is not that they're not consuming or that they're not investing, it's that they don't consume or invest what the central planners would like them to. As such, what we are likely to continue to see is that same problem, is that when the Eurozone faces, I don't know if it's going to be a recession, or I don't know if it's a crisis, because there will be economies that will do well, and there are economies that have tremendous level of strength. Germany's unemployment, Holland unemployment, etc. Others not. Spain, Portugal, you name it. But what are they going to do? They're going to come back again to demand-side policies. Okay? And they're going to, again, perpetuate overcapacity. Because think about this. I heard this morning that the European Union needs to spend more on green energy and on renewables, on infrastructure. Great ideas, great ideas. But if they're great ideas and truly profitable and really attractive, why is the private sector not taking them? Hold on a second. Because does the government, or does the European Central Bank, or does the Federal Reserve, or does the US government, or the Bank of Japan have more and better information than the consumer or than companies about what is going on in the economy? Not necessarily. As such, it is very, very likely that if you implement yet another stimulus, the impact will not even be neutral. Think about this. We're talking about a recession, or the likelihood of a recession in the Eurozone, after the Juncker plan has mobilized more than 400 billion euros of investment. So we're not having a problem of pushing investment or pushing liquidity into the economy. We might have a problem of understanding what is thriving, which was our other panel, which is how disruptive technologies are improving the democratization of consumption. Because who here in the room has ever left a supermarket saying, I cannot take this anymore, food has come down? Who has ever left a service station and said, this is unbearable, gasoline prices are down? Nobody, okay? Nobody. So why do we want inflation? Inflation is taxation without legislation. Inflation is the hidden tax, okay? So, but think about this. Why is it difficult to get the inflation that the central bank wants? Not that there isn't any. There is huge inflation in non-tradable goods, and there is massive inflation, hold on, in financial assets. Because inflation is generated where the money goes, okay? So why does it not come where the central bank would like it to, or the government would like it to? Because technology is allowing us to get a much better understanding of the process of price formation in any occasion, to such a level that if you have to make a purchase decision today and you go on the internet and you don't find a difference of at least 20 to 30% between the highest price of the thing that you're going to buy and the lowest, you will get anxious or angry. What does that mean? That the ability of generate inflation via disguised information, which is how you generated historically inflation, you did not really know or have access to all of the goods and services that would create that product, and value added was created throughout the whole chain, is that technology is shrinking all of that. It's shrinking all of that, and it's great. And it's great because everybody that is taking pictures right now, they're taking pictures with these incredible phones. Everybody that we have massive democratization of the access to information, goods, and services. So that is one of the parts of the economy that we need to pay attention to. But we need to pay attention to it as a next big thing from one perspective. It is disinflationary. It is disinflationary. If you look at it as being disinflationary, you don't have a problem as an investor. If you look at it as a conduit of further inflation, you have a big problem. This is the reason why the telecoms bubble exploded and why the renewable bubble of the mid-2000s exploded as well. It was because a technology that is supposed to make things cheaper is actually relying via higher debt and via excess risk in the business model in inflation going up. The reason why Enron fell, or the reason why so many solar companies fell, was because their business model was predicated on the opposite of what their business actually did. Their business actually made things cheaper, while their business model, highly levered, highly geared to the cycle, needed the kind of inflation that it was killing. So what we need to pay attention, therefore, is technology. Technology as a great source of job creation. Another very important factor, the fear-mongering about technology. The fear-mongering about technology is fundamentally based on the idea that technology is going to destroy jobs. But the reality that is proven is that in the most robotized countries, the level of unemployment is the lowest. But not just the lowest on the high level of qualification type of jobs that some of our colleagues were mentioning. Technology creates a lot more jobs in the non-qualified sectors. because we strive to get more access to human interconnection. Maybe not building things, but definitely selling, or definitely in contact, no? So technology, the next big thing. Technology, the next big thing that is not going to be adequately shown in GDP. If you look at that mobile that was ringing incessantly when I was talking, that mobile has a lot more things than what it shows in GDP. You see what I mean? How does it show in GDP? It shows by the price of the components, literally, no? And the cost of the thing. But it's a lot more. So we're probably misunderstanding the growth and productivity of technology, and at the same time the level of quality of life that it brings. Technology. The second big thing. While we have become extremely, I would say, negative about the economy in the Eurozone, in the developed countries, in the United States, etc., 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 in this time that we're going to be spending together enjoying this conversation, in this time, around between 400 and 500 people all over the world will enter the middle class. This is outstanding. This is outstanding. So, as many people as there are today here, or a little bit more, are going to enter into the middle class while I speak. We're missing that when we look at all these negative things, no? We're missing all of the goods and services that being in the middle class requires, because you want to have better goods and services, you have to have more quality, you want to have better experiences, personal experiences, etc., etc. This is a great trend, the increase in the middle class globally. While we spend hours and hours and hours talking about inequality in our country, we forget that inequality globally is at the lowest level in history. Fantastic trend. So don't forget technology, and don't forget the increase in wealth globally. Let's not forget about the aging of the population. We talk about aging of the population from a negative perspective and from the perspective of a tax collector. Aging of the population means that people consume less, and aging of the population means that we cannot pay them a pension, make them all die now. What? What are we talking about? The longevity is a tremendous positive source of growth and goods, services, and different kinds of offers that we can provide to those people in health, in tourism, in culture, in so many things. So aging, longevity, tremendous, fantastic source.